With the Eagles' sights set firmly on free agency, there's a brand new pass rusher emerging as a rumored target. You gotta hear why one insider predicts they'll get rid of one, maybe two star pass rushers in order to acquire him. Also, in today's video, hear the biggest combine story nobody's talking about and why it involves the Eagles trading up for a premier wide receiver who stole the show at the combine next month's draft, as well as the latest on Brandon Graham's contract that reportedly will drop any day now. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. Well, what do you know? We mentioned this earlier this week, and now it seems to be almost official. Philadelphia, Brandon Graham, they're reportedly very close to finalizing the one-year deal to bring back the pass rusher for season 15 and what will be his final year in Midnight Green, according to Jacob Media's Derek Gunn. And BG is not shying away from this. He did some media rounds yesterday on both WIP and the Philly Sports YouTube channel and confirmed to the latter that the deal is imminent and it's going to keep him in Philadelphia.
I think things are happening in a positive way. I just know that you got to make sure you take care of your business, first and foremost, before both parties could, talk about the plan that they want from you. So I know for me, being here this long, I'm just here to try to help the team. And so I know me and Howie gonna get it done. And, I got faith in that. Philly has always been the only option since I got in here. So, it's like I really just feel like, man, I'm so welcoming. I mean, it's been so welcoming after, it didn't start so good. But, winning the Super Bowl definitely changed my mind about this city. And then, stuff happening, the way it did with me sacking Tom Brady. I mean, that helped my cause. But, man, it was tough in the beginning. But now, things have been forgiven. And, man, it's been so welcoming. And, I'm just trying to make sure that that Philly know that, I'm going to ride with them to the end.
Yeah, this is obviously a good thing. Everyone loves BG, but I do wonder how effective the 2010 first-round draft pick will be in his 15th season. I'm not expecting anything crazy. He only had 3 sacks and was pretty healthy this past season. But we can't forget he's only 2 years removed from an 11-sack season and still had, 34.5 sacks since 2018? I think he can definitely still get after it on a very limited basis, but I think his leadership role is really the key here. You got some young pass rushers, especially Nolan Smith, who need the mentorship and to make sure the defensive line doesn't lose a step when they inevitably lose Fletcher Cox. Drop a like for BG coming back to Philadelphia for one final farewell tour. Here's to hoping we can give him a much better send-off than we did Jason Kelce the final half of last season. Now, I know myself and everyone else has been mainly focused on free agency this week because, of course, the new league year is next week and you're going to have a ton of signings starting in a few days. But everyone in Eagle Land really seemed to gloss over a really big draft tip from the NFL Combine last week when the Liberty Lions' Jacob Rabati confirmed that, quote, the Eagles were really interested in Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy. They met with him formally at the NFL Scouting Combine and will continue to show interest throughout the draft process. Now, of course, after what the wide receiver did at the NFL Combine, you probably at least recognize the name Xavier Worthy. I mean, geez, he set the Combine record with a 4.21 40-yard dash, which put him at the top of a long list of sub-4.27 receivers and cornerbacks you see here. Now stop, I already know what you're thinking before you go down and comment it. Do the Eagles really need a wide receiver? And Thomas, do speedy combat receivers actually turn out to be good in the NFL? Well, for the latter, first off, you are kind of correct. I mean, speedy combat receivers haven't necessarily been great, although, let's be honest, speed itself is not a bad thing in the NFL. In fact, for receivers, it's really preferred. Tyreek Hill, great example, not on the list of sub-4.27s because he ran a 4.29 at the NFL Combine, which is 0.8 of a second slower than Xavier Worthy, but Reek's ability to explode after the catch and still make some really good contested catches have made him a premier receiver, a top 3 receiver in the league for a very long time. And like a Justin Ross or even kind of like a Henry Ruggs, Worthy has a pretty solid resume during his 3 seasons at UT. He's proved to be more than just a speedy deep threat, a one-stop shop, if you will. He's an all-around receiver and would add a whole new level to the Eagles' current receiving core. Now, I don't know if Philadelphia needs to spend their first-round draft pick on Xavier Worthy. It's kind of a luxury pick, and you already have A.J. Brown. You're going to re-sign Devontae Smith. But let me just pitch this to you really, really quickly. Philadelphia needs a cornerback, they needs a linebacker, and running back. Those are their 3 big needs heading into free agency. That is the strong part of this season's free agency. Philadelphia has $44 million in cap space, could sign all of those positions that they need during free agency and be left with just a luxury of 9 draft picks and go, let's take best player available, and it could be Worthy at 22. Now, of course, if that didn't convince you, how about the Eagles' only real legendary speed wide receiver, Desean Jackson, just the other day, telling Kay Adams on our YouTube channel the Birds better go get Worthy at all costs.
Xavier Worthy, we had him on the show. Speaking of somebody creating a legacy, the kid's a stud. I know you saw the 4.21 40. He said he models his game after you. Which team in the NFL needs Xavier Worthy?
That's a trick question. Philadelphia Eagles, you better go get that boy ASAP.
You think? Why?
I mean, he possibly be the next D Jack, man. You know, if he idolized me growing up, he don't watch. And I think he could do it. If anybody could do it, he got the routes, he got the size, he got the heart, and he got the speed. So I mean, going to strike him. It don't too many come. They be D Jack. So he might be D Jack. Go grab him.
You see yourself in this kid.
A lot of similarities for sure. But you know, that's a stretch. 15 years, the records. But I do see similarities. So, you know, the workload is a lot. It's heavy. It's hefty.
Again, I'll be shocked if this happens, but would you have any interest in getting Worthy in the first round, or you think we have way bigger needs than just wide receiver? Now, speaking of bigger needs, I have a real need to get to 44,000 subs. We're 200 subs away. If you've been watching this like a lot of you guys do and aren't sub, hit the red button down below right now. Now, taking a step away from the NFL Combine for a second, let's go back to free agency. NFL insider Michael Lombardi had a very interesting take on his podcast the other day about the Eagles going after Jets free agent pass rusher Bryce Huff, but the Eagles would have to get rid of not only Haason Reddick, but Josh Sweat to do it. Listen to this.
You know, Philadelphia wants Bryce Huff. Okay, so if they sign Bryce Huff, okay, then they're going to get rid of Reddick and they'll get rid of Sweat. Okay, so you could sit there and look at their depth chart and say, well, Philly doesn't need an edge rusher, right? But they think they do. Obviously, they didn't get any pressure from their guys, so they'll swap those guys out. They'll swap Sweat and Reddick out and bring in Huff and pay him whatever the number is they've got to pay him.
Now, Josh Davis yesterday made a really good point on his show where he talked about this and said, we don't really know if Lombardi is speaking as if he knows this for a fact or if he's just kind of guessing or speculating. Take it with a grain of salt, but to me, it sounds like Lombardi knows something that we don't. Now, as far as Huff the player, I like him a lot. He's 5 years younger than Haason Reddick. He had 10 sacks last season, and if the Birds get a second-round draft pick for Reddick and then sign Huff for less than $20 million a year, that wouldn't be a bad replacement. Is he as good as Haason Reddick is right now? That's up for debate. The sacks were pretty close this past season, but my real question is, what does Lombardi mean by getting rid of not only Reddick, but also Josh Sweat in order to sign Huff? I mean, technically the Birds have an out on Sweat's contract this season. They could also keep him for one final year in 2024 for pretty darn cheap. I guess if they wanted to trade Sweat now in order to get something in return before he walks away in free agency, that could make some sense, paired with the fact that Sweat was pretty ineffective this past year. He wasn't as dominant as Philadelphia is hoping he was going to kind of blossom into after what was a pretty darn good 2022 season. And maybe it makes sense that you could lose Josh Sweat, but it's losing both of them that really has me scratching my head. I don't think Howie's really keen to do something as dramatic as blow up his entire defensive line. And sure, Philadelphia could always draft somebody in the NFL draft. There's a couple of pretty decent pass rushers and outside linebackers that make sense in round 1 or round 2. You also have Nolan Smith, although I think a lot of us are just hoping and praying Nolan Smith blossoms into not a first-round bust after being kind of overwhelmed and often injured during this 2023 rookie campaign. But again, this just had me scratching my head. I'm curious your thoughts in the comments section of, would you get rid of both of your pass rushers in order to, I guess, get compensation and then draft and acquire a guy like Bryce Huff? It just seems like a stretch and not something, like I said earlier, that Howie Roseman would really want to do. I said this like 10,000 times this week, but it remains true every single day. Rumors are just rumors. They're rumors until they become actual facts. And the good news is, only a couple more days of rumors until you'll get these cold hard facts on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. So be sure to subscribe, because whenever the latest news drops, first channel's live, myself and Josh Davis every single time. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. The way you get the pop-up, boom, right here on your cell phone. It says, hey, Thomas Mott Show is live. Here's who they signed, and we'll break it all down for you guys as quickly and concisely as we possibly can. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.